Buying a business is actually really kind of exciting if you're in the market to buy a business that already has revenue flowing through it, an established brand. That's really an exciting way to do it. I do recommend that if you're not buying it maybe from someone you know and trust, that you do work with a broker to make sure that you cross all your T's and dot all your I's, that you're maybe not buying any unknown debt or, skeletons in the closet, that you just have some protections in place. Welcome back to the Catalyst Podcast. Today we're going to talk about the different ways you can acquire a business. So I think most of you have heard my story where I bought my business. I went to work for an organization, and after sort of false promises of acquiring it through performance, if I performed and hit certain goals, I would get equity in the business. And that was not how it worked out. I actually bought the business. There are many different ways that you can acquire a business. You can buy it. You can form partnerships. You can buy into equity. There's definitely different ways to do it. You can work with a broker, which I would recommend doing that. That way you have all the legal documents and partnerships and evaluations to do that. I'm actually hoping to have a guest on in the future to help talk about that, a local broker that can really advise on all the different ways that both sides that you can set your business up to be sold, and then also have the protections and things in place to evaluate another business and then buy that business. Buying a business is actually really kind of exciting if you're in the market to buy a business that already has revenue flowing through it, an established brand. That's really an exciting way to do it. I do recommend that if you're not buying it maybe from someone you know and trust, that you do work with a broker to make sure that you cross all your T's and dot all your I's, that you're maybe not buying any unknown debt or, skeletons in the closet, that you just have some protections in place. Sometimes when you're buying a business, you may choose to buy it, say, with the owner operator in place. So for instance, if someone were to buy like my IT recruiting company, because I have been an owner operator and a lot of the relationships are because of me and the 10 years I've been running it, someone may want me to stay on board as a transition relationship. So they may want me to stay on board for like a year in order for me to smooth the transition, broker relationships, make sure that those things stay intact and not just like cut it off at the knees. Like, oh, I bought this business for Sonia and she's no longer here because I have been the business. I have been the owner operator, meaning I'm out there selling. I've been the face and brand of Torian for so long. If someone were to buy it and just be like, oh, Sonia's now out of the picture, those relationships may not stay intact. That may be perceived as, well, if Sonia's not there anymore, I don't want to work with that business anymore. So sometimes when you buy a business, you keep the owner operator or top salesperson on board, and then you phase that person out. So it's helpful to have a broker as part of that. And then making sure that you have a plan in place to like add, if you're buying, say, like I'll use my recruiting company as an example. I bought an established brand. I wasn't keeping that name of the old recruiting company. I 100% was going to rebrand the company I bought as me and my brand. And so I had a plan in place to rename it in my likeness, Torian. I'm a Taurus. I had a whole vision for how that was going to look coming from the old brand. That name didn't resonate with me. In fact, it had some connotations with the old owner, and I wanted to totally rebrand it. Torian, I'm a Taurus. I had a plan in place to be a little disruptive in the recruiting market. And so my logo was a Taurus. It was a bull. I had a plan to like rebrand myself and then splash into the market with this new pricing model, with this new customer service model. And so if you're going to buy a business and then rebrand, you really need to have a marketing plan in place, and you need to have a plan to rebrand yourself and then hit the market with somewhat of a big splash, and then a differentiator, right? To say, hey, I'm here with this established business, but yet it's new, and this is why it's new, and this is the plan I have to carry on your old business, to keep you as a customer, but then like reservice you in this new and fantastical way so that I can retain you as a business, as a customer from the new standing business. If you're buying a business that maybe had a troubled past, I was just talking with someone who bought a business out of state that had some trouble with their customer service legacy, and they really struggled with rebranding the problems. They didn't necessarily have a plan. They didn't know the industry as well as they probably should have. They really struggled with how to fix the customer service issues that were in place before that. And because of that, it didn't go well. They weren't able to recoup those customers, recapture them. And here they are about a year later having to sell the company because they didn't do the market research. They didn't solve the problems that the previous owner had. And as a result of that, they weren't able to recapture market, and they actually lost market share and lost customers. So it's really important when you're buying a business that if using a broker, you can get all that's market research, you can get all those studies done, and then have a solid plan in place. It's really advantageous of you to work with a coach who has maybe some experience in those areas to help you put a business plan in place to be able to do that. Buying a family business, that's going to come with some idiosyncrasies and problems of its own because people are used to working maybe with a family style service. You really just need to pay attention to why are you buying the business? What are the problems and successes that business had before you chose to buy it? And are you going to be able to meet those expectations that the previous owner was able to solve, was able to service? What's under the covers that maybe you didn't know? Why is the owner selling? Are they selling because they're retiring? Are they selling because they haven't been able to grow? Are they selling because they've been losing market share? The profit margins aren't there. If you're buying sight unseen, meaning you're not doing the research on the numbers, you're not doing the research on the problems that maybe the company had previously, you're really walking in blind. And that's why having a business broker, a business coach, and doing maybe even some forensic accounting into the business before you sign on the dotted line are really going to help you in making sure that you're buying the right business for you. And then having that proper business plan, marketing plan, and customer service plan going forward is what's going to help you make sure that you have some success laid out for you going forward to make sure that you are set up for success. I think a lot of people have this idea, this fantastical idea that business ownership and business entrepreneurship is just so easy. And especially when they're buying a business that on paper looks very successful, and then they dig into it. And, you know, in the case of the business I mentioned, they just thought, wow, this is a profitable business. This, you know, I can buy into this is going to be great. But they hadn't done the research to like really understand what were some of the underlying problems that maybe the owner hadn't disclosed as to why they're selling. Business ownership is hard. Entrepreneurship is hard. And so sometimes things aren't always what they seem on the surface. So it can be very lucrative. It can be very rewarding, but it's something you definitely want to be able to do your homework on, and having the right partners aligned to make sure that your blind spots are exposed, that you just have all the information going into it is super, super helpful and will just set you up for success. So having a good business broker, having possibly a good business coach, and doing some market research, talking to previous customers, just setting yourself up for success will help you be more successful in the long run. If you like what you saw today on the Catalyst podcast, make sure you subscribe to our show, like it, and share it with someone who you think might also find value.